me in the dark on every current. See me in the park across a crowded street. Feel me in your mind. You know I'm flying. Shells are in the sand. Wind is sighing. This reality is going on without me. On without me. I'm so happy. Clouds are lifting, and it's easy to be free. Easy to be free in the evening. Dance me in the waves on every current. Sun is gone today. It's in my heart just burning. This reality is going on without me. On without me. I'm so happy. Clouds are lifting, and it's easy to be free. Easy to be free in the evening. Hear the wind. My heart is sighing. On the wind. My mind is flying. This reality is going on without me. On without me. I'm so happy. Clouds are lifting, and it's easy to be free. Easy to be free in the evening. It's easy to be free. It's easy
The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, we are back and we are live. Feet to the fire. I am your host, James Athayanchek, the Black Knight of Talk Radio, doing a live cast today, video. Trying something here, so let's see if it can work out. Both Facebook and YouTube and Spreaker. I have a death wish to try and do all of this stuff, but I'm trying to work this all out. Oh, where's that? Move that down a little bit. There you go. So a few things to say. If anybody's been following my Facebook page, you will notice that I've been going through with a lot of data and reports and sharing them along, as well as Twitter feed and gab.com. F2F is my name there, the number 2, F2F. And I've been sharing information so that we can be best of informed out of what's going on. I'm doing it for me, and I'm sharing it. And I have no stake in this. I'm not trying to get clicks or whatever. I'm just doing this, and I'm sharing it. And then people can do what they wish with it, comment, whatever. And so I'm not going to go through like this lengthy proof of what's going on. You can look at the other shows I've done. If this is the first time you've seen this, Feet to the Fire Radio, I've been doing this since 2003, January 2nd, 5th to be exact, an 18th year. And what I basically do is use the lack of contradiction as the guide. And so truth has no contradiction. If you find contradiction, you have to check to see your assumptions because something's wrong, because truth is not contradictory. And on the path of truth, you might actually do what would appear to be a 180, but in reality, you're just following that linear path toward truth. A brief example of that is when they sent Voyager up, they predicted where the densities and the scarcity on the rings would be, and they were actually off 100%. I mean, it was where they expected it to be most dense were actually the thinnest concentration, and vice versa. So, I mean, they were wrong, but because they were 100% off or 180 degrees off, they're able to create their fix their model and so on. And so that's what is about. The truth of the matter is going on here is that the COVID-19 virus is a real virus. People get sick, people get ill, they die. It is a real thing. However, it is being blown out of proportion, misquoted, and used for a political basically war, a hostile takeover of the United States and changing how things are done here. I mean, that's if this is a shock to you at this moment, there's plenty of people out there explaining it. I've done it on earlier shows. I'm not going to go down that path at this moment. I will quote some things that I have posted on Facebook as a reference point for things going on. The main thing is the data. I'm going to have to go into this screen to find out the address. Okay, it is covidtracking.com. So let me bring this up here. Oh, COVID tracking, one word, tracking.com. Excuse me. Let's go to the webpage. Get the data. Now, what this place has done is they have correlating all the data from all of the states. This is all done from the United States. All these states put this forward, and they correlate it onto their area. You can see the totals. You can go state by state. Not all the states have all the same information. Some have current, cumulative, etc., but the bottom line is up here. And one thing that all the media is not doing is they are not telling you the percentage of, they're saying 35,000 deaths, which is bad, especially if you're family members and people who know one of these, it's bad. But when you correlate the information in there, if you look at that, it comes out to under 1% of the total U.S. population. It's 0.009 or something of the whole population. All you have to do is take the U.S. population, 317 million, or that's what it was. Well, let's just do it now. U.S. population. 327 million, okay, divided by the number of death times 100. Let me see if I can do that. If I have a Andy, I didn't think to do this live, so I'll leave that be for now. But when you divide that, and let me see if I can do it in here. 35,000 divided by 317, 123, 123 equals times 100 equals. So it's 0.01% of the population. So it's a small number, and they're purposely not telling you that because they want you to see the bigger number. Now, granted, it's not nice. It's bad to have those numbers. But when you look into the history of the regular flu, as we go here to this that was posted, let me change this. I forgot where the other one. Let me do that now. Source, screen capture, smart capture. All right, we take this off. Off this down. Color, full dynamic range, layout, enhance, resize. Bring it up. Then you can see the numbers. Scroll down. You can see the numbers of U.S. The COVID is hugely over the normal flu, with the exception of New York, was exceptionally hit, and New Jersey. There was one other one down the ways a bit. I can't remember where that was. So these numbers, even Michigan, with all the extreme stuff that's being said there, is actually less than that. And my only reason to bring this up is not to take away any people working, for example, in hospitals with the COVID and the people who have lost a loved one, and even people who have pulled through it through the skin of their teeth and are coming up. Not taking away from that. The point is that what is done in 2018, they didn't shut down the economy and put 25 million people out of work because of a number which was markedly higher. What is different about this time? This time they decided to use it as an attack on that said economy, and in particular the president, who's basing part of his success on the economy. If you'll see, if you're not attached to a political party or an ideology, and you just look at the data, the people who have been the president's opponents have been starting from when he was running for president, came up with inaccuracies, racist and all that. He's got a huge history of helping, and so on. All of these things have come up from there to the election, to the after the election, to before he got on there, before he first got in there, the Russian hoax, which was, $30 million was spent to find out that there wasn't a Russian issue, the Ukraine thing and all this stuff, and now right into this. I mean, it's really obvious to those watching. The problem at that point was it was spending some money, and it was a political argument. Now they decided to go hot. Now they have actually attacked people's livelihoods with this by coming up with the social distancing. You'll notice all of the Trump rallies are now been, boom, done. They were hugely successful, getting more and more. Now they're gone. Now they have also cut the economy, a huge 30% loss in the stock market. Many people are out of work. All this stuff, one fell swoop, they were able to do this. And now they're trying to rewrite the history of the disease to try and have Donald Trump not acting soon enough to cause the problems. So I'm going to leave it at that because the evidence is overwhelming. You can go on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, James A. Jancic, you look that up and you become a friend or follow I'm not expert on those things. You can follow the posts that I've been putting up personally, and I get those from some of the listeners and followers of people that I follow. I share it along with it. The same thing with Twitter, though not to the extent I do on Facebook, and on Gab. They are saved that you could see this information. This is not opinion. This is not a pro-Trump rant. It's not any of those things. It is data, and I'm going to go down some of the data. But then my important thing on this I'd like to talk about is what do we do about it? And I don't have the answer. I'm not sitting here going, I have the answer. Do this. I have a suggestion from my philosophical, spiritual, and analytical point of view, looking at history, trying to play it as chess and look forward and anticipate what moves are wanted. And I'm going to lay that out, which I think it's important. I mean, I'm doing it from my perspective. I think it's important. I figured this out. This is what I'm going to be doing. This is what I, think. And again, I'm sharing it. You can do what you wish with the information. The one, this is an article about the Boston 25 News. A particular Boston homeless shelter has been testing people for COVID-19 and found a very large percentage of the people who were asymptomatic, that is, they have no idea they were sick, were tested for the COVID-19, and they were positive. They call it stunning because when you are stunning with this type of thing, it's like the information is so important and so has so many applications that it's stunning. And one of the things about it is that the numbers is that it gives it paves, if this is a random instead of specific to this particular area, if this is kind of a normal random thing, that means a huge swath of the American public has had COVID-19, either didn't know it, they had a cold, they were mildly sick, they had a flu, they got pretty bad, and they got better. Maybe took a few days off work, got better. They probably passed it along to other people without knowing it, and they had the same thing. So the large portion of people, if we're tested, would be tested with the antibodies. They are now immune to COVID-19 in its present form. And one of the other stories that I saw, I put it up there on Facebook somewhere, is that at this point they've been testing the virus and it's been stable, meaning it hasn't been changing, and therefore if you're immune to it, you will still be immune to it. Unlike the seasonal type flus where they change a little bit, so some people might get a little sick this year, they might even not get sick. If there's a big change, more people get sick because you have this, quote, herd immunity, which means that everyone is immune to it. It all passes through and doesn't work. So the herd of the human herd has this immunity. Also, you have a personal immunity, so that even if it does modify a little bit different, your body already has most of the genetic code. Antibodies will do its best. You might not even know you have it the second time. So by having so many people have had it and not realize it, those numbers aren't included in any of these things you see on the media. All they want to see is the people dead, 35,000 dead. Oh, my God. But when you look at the other, and I have to go find this other one. I got two computers going here, if you excuse me. I'm going to have to read this to you because, well, I think I quoted it in Facebook. 2013, 12 and 13, there was 56,000 people died from the flu that year. No shutting down the economy, no 25,000 million people out of work, and looking at financial destitution. Who knows? We're still on the outside of this, so who knows what's going to happen with the economy at this point, taking a huge sledgehammer to it. And at this point, there were more deaths then. And when I talked about this on some of the threads that I have on there, people put a comparative chart. They took a lesser year and show how the COVID deaths are spiking at a huge, fast rate. And I'm wondering if I could find that along the way here, because I unfortunately, when I do these comments, some of them go, I don't want to I'll drive everybody nuts scrolling through this. But in that particular graphic, what is misleading about it is that they're just starting to test. So the numbers they have for these other flus start out high and they vacillate higher and lower. This is starting out zero and shooting up. But if they had the graph for 2013 on there, 12-13, it was 56,000 which we haven't reached yet. And so when you start comparing apples and oranges and you leave out information, that's a huge red flag for something planned. Now, when it comes to media and TV, ratings is the deal. So, like, I've seen this for years now with the weather channels. Oh, I got a big storm coming. Oh, it's going to be, anywhere a foot of snow and this and that. And what happens is, wow, we only got 3 inches. Aren't we lucky? We missed that bullet. Everybody's, oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Meanwhile, during the pre-storm time, their ratings go up, and therefore what they charge for commercial, any given moment on these TV channels, their minute of commercial depends on that moment what their rating, what their viewing is. And with digital TV, it makes it very easy to find out how many people are watching. You don't need to have the ratings before, like they did before. So even if you're watching digital TV in terms of like cable and satellite, even the potential is there for feedback. Even on your regular TV, depending upon what kind of model it is, it can report back who's watching what. So that is what it works. So they want to build it up. They build it up. Oh, and then they're safe because, we only get 3 inches. Great. Now, if somebody were to predict there was going to be no snow and it's sunny and you get 4 inches, people are like, hey, what's going on here? Plus they miss that viewers. They miss the viewers when they do this stuff. So when it comes to anything media, television media, it's always trumped up to be, oh my God, because oh my God gets people tuning in. You don't tune in. I heard it's going to be really nice today. Let me see how that went. People could do it. They should do it really. But so now we're talking about the COVID thing. So you have the aspects of ratings and oh my God, right? Then you have the political aspects of trying to blame Trump for everything that happens. You have those political aspects. And of course you have Trump in his inevitable style with his fake news stuff, calling him back out on him, which makes even more mad and try even harder to find stuff. They got caught in so many lies and so many misquotes that they had to retract it. So you have that aspect of it. Then you have the aspect of in a global sense. Trump comes along and disrupts the global flow of the United States. The United States is pretty much the last stance against globalism. Maybe Russia, which is probably why they don't want the United States and Russia to team up, because Russia has been through its communist reign. They still say they're communist. The Communist Party is still there. Putin came from within the Communist Party. However, the way he's running the country and doing it is more populist and for the people than for any kind of Politburo in the old days. So with the exception of Russia, maybe, we'll include Russia. The United States is the last bastion to fight globalism. So we have to and then Trump comes in with a nationalist message, beats being completely beaten up on the media, their polls and everything. And so you have the globalists are like, oh, we're losing here. The EU lost Britain. You have France having their movement with Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen lost, but is gaining ground since her loss in the election. You have Italy forming groups. So you have to, what do you do? What do you do in this nationalistic growth? You have the demonstrations in Hong Kong fighting against China. And you have the yellow vests in France protesting. All these things are happening. So what do? Nothing like a good pandemic to cool off those fires. All of a sudden, there's nothing about Hong Kong. There's nothing about, even though, to their credit, they're still protesting in France through all of this. God bless them. All that stuff gets put in the background. You have them trying to impeach the president on Ukraine. Brings up the Joe Biden's son in Ukraine. All that stuff is getting there. Boom. Nobody's talking about that. Now, so you have That's kind of like going back to number two, the political aspects, and then the globalist aspects. So all of these things are being taken from us. But is it really the pandemic really that bad? Now it's bad, and like in the past when you've had these shootings where people said they were fake and didn't happen and all this stuff. Well, more than likely, it would be easier to have a real event happen and then manipulate it for what you need. So I never said any of these past things didn't happen. It's how they were used. If you go back a few shows I did, the problem with this is not the virus per se, it's how they react to the virus, which is to shut down the United States in various areas of it. And you'll notice that that when they shut down these areas with the hardest are Democratic governors, especially Illinois where I'm at. Pritzker, he's like, hey, I'm in charge. This is my, I'm paraphrasing, not much. I'm in charge. This is my state, and I'm going to do this. It's not like I'm thinking about what's best for the people. I'm doing this. They're trying to shut these things down. This is the globalists / those. The Democratic Party was taken over by these globalist type of leftists or whatever you want to call them. I wish I had come up with a name, my own personal name for them, because all those names have baggage with it. Well, up until this point, now they've went hot against us. They have actually shot. They had the first shot across. They've actually shot and killed people. In the sense of they've crashed the economy, which is sending people into financial ruin, which does, of course, play on the emotions. We'll watch the suicide rate go up on it. So the question is, what do we do about it? Now, I probably gave more data than I was going to on this because I don't want to be redundant. The problem is, what do we do about it? Let me go back here and see if I can find some of this stuff. This is an example here, just to show you, in California, to make sure nobody's doing the unthinkable thing and going out and doing on a skateboard. They're filling the skateboard part in with sand. Now, what? What? And if you go through my Facebook feed, you will see constant stories of people being arrested for, there's just so many things I've posted for me to go through for all of this. There's 2 points I want to make. Let me just skip all of that. You can go through that. Let me put it that way. If you want to go to the Facebook and go through all of this stuff, you can do that. But what I want to basically say here is that what should we do about this? We could roll over and do what we're told and work our way into globalist, which is going to be global oppression. And the aristocratic groups throughout history, there you had the aristocrats, you had the monarch and the aristocrats, and then the serfs. Well, just a quote, kind of paraphrase George Carlin. There's a group, and we're not members. But we're not the aristocrats. We're the peasants. There's no middle ground. You have the managerial class, which is going to be the peasants. The side of the peasant class who gets extra little treats for further oppressing the peasant class. And then you have the aristocrats who are underneath the king. And the king in this case would be the globalist oligarchs, who are pulling the strings there. I mean, obviously, if you want to get spiritual about it, above that would be the satanic realm, ultimately where the negative energy comes from and the manipulation. But so that's what will happen is you will lose. And the way that they do things, of course, is to take a lot away and then give you some back. It's like, oh, okay. Remember when the gas went up from, it was like 30 cents? I remember I had back in the 70s, it was like 30 cents for a gallon or 20 cents a gallon, and it went up and went back down. And then eventually at one point, I remember driving the truck, I was driving $5 a gallon for fuel. And it went back down into twos and everybody was happy. Well, it used to be under one. Just a little example there of the idea is they push it hard, pull it back. They still made an advance. So this is what I think is happening here. Of course, they're pushing hard. They don't have constitutional ground to stand on it. But while they're fighting, while there's lawsuits and fighting on it, their foot is on the throat of American business in those states, and it is killing it. So once they are thrown back through the courts, there still will be organ damage, if I'm going to walk in that use that metaphor, on the system. So what's happening here? And actually, remind me to talk about HCQ. I got to talk about that. It's important. What's going back is people are protesting. I had a couple. This is some of the stuff they're playing in France to have people can sunbathe by putting up. I mean, it's Italy, putting up plexiglass around them. I gotta go back to this. Here's protests. There's many of them. I'm just going to pick that picture. What's good is you have a grassroots, organized locally amongst the people, protests against the lockdown. Now the political, what's the word? I'm lost for the word. Well, it's not the right word, but the propaganda on this is to go, look, see, they're putting you in risk by sitting out there and protesting, so they're going to have that spin will be on the news. But it's good because the people are standing up. Now, this is really important from what I can see, because I look at things, I let the data tell me, I look at historical perspective, I have a spiritualness to it, I look in there, and I also try to go forward. It's important that we don't get violent, because what they want to do, and I said this many weeks, months ago on the show, is the military, the police, and Trump and the Trump supporters were all on the same page. The leftist globalists cannot win at that point. You can't win against if you look through all of history, whoever the military backed won. You can't win with that. You have half the United States or more, way more now probably, plus the military and the police. It's not, you can't win there. You have to separate the people from the military/police. So I was saying, look for something to happen to try and separate them. Enter COVID-19. Now you can't go out, and if you go out, you're endangering the health of people. So now when these people go out here, they're coming out in mass. If they get violent, or if they do something like that, it gives an excuse to send in the military, and in this case, the military would be the National Guard and the police, and will pit them against the people, which is what they want to do. So I'm totally liking the idea of the civil disobedience. You recall the 60s and the civil rights and so on. Civil disobedience. The greatest example I think of is Gandhi. Gandhi is, India is being run by Britain. Excuse me, a superpower. How do you beat Britain? You can't fight them. So what they basically did is they unplugged from what they want them to do. They sat down or stood up, whatever is needed, and did not fight. I mean, they went to get the salt, and they got beat up or killed, and the next guy went up to get his salt without having to pay. The deal was you had to pay some kind of tax for salt, which was all over the place in India. You had to pay a tax to England for the salt that's native in India. Indian natives would have to pay the salt tax for native salt. So what they did was they fought back by simply going to get the salt, and they got killed and beat up. And after a while, the conscious of the army and the police just couldn't do it anymore. I can't do it, and I can't be just killing people who I know. There might be neighbors or people I know or just strangers, but there's no harm done. Can't do it. And eventually, Gandhi won secession from England through that methods. And this is, I think, the method that we need to do. You want to have a constitution. We have a constitution and a Bill of Rights, allows us to do certain things. We go do those certain things, but be prepared to be met, in many cases, with an iron fist. You have to allow these things to happen. This is where the real heroes are. You talk about the revolutionary heroes. What, did I move something? How did I do that? Oh. Did I do that? Okay. These real revolutionary heroes, what they would do is they, in this case, would go out there, risk their health, risk their money, their freedom, their family, losing their family, and be going to prison and or harmed by this. Eventually bringing light, especially now when everyone's got a phone, everyone's got, you're a reporter, everyone's a reporter, right? Nowadays, these things get uploaded and spread out, and all the information gets out there. So the solution I see, and it's happening. I mean, they're not waiting for me. I'm just saying that people go out and do your things, but be ready to have the state accost you, and you have to plan your response. Is to be calm, nonviolent, and say, my constitutional right of motion, freedom of speech, etc. And some of the states, people are coming out when it's legal, when it's not controlled, and they're coming out with guns, but they're just having them, right? It's a good thing to do that because you're not letting them go. Now, they're not going to accept that. It's not going to be like, well, it's okay. Well, okay, we won't do it. Right? They want to somehow make this work. So my guess is you're going to see these demonstrations, which are actually wanted by the leftist globalists, whatever you want to call them. And they're going to you got to look for false flags or somebody's planted in there to do something and blame all of them. It's like when they had the knucklehead white supremacists did something, and then they blamed all the people who were there talking about the statues. There were two different groups, but they got blended together. I mean, there's an example where it was somewhat organic, but it could be worse, where they could actually send in people to disrupt. I mean, you have to make sure you be calm and not violent. Because if you decide to, I hear people talking, I see them on Facebook talking about how, well, I don't know how many millions of guns the general public has. It's more guns than many countries have, armies have, and all this stuff. I said, this when the British landed in the war, I mean, basically they had the same armaments. They may have more, they may have been trained more, and do these kind of things. But it ends up where there was an evil. They both had the same kind of guns, maybe more. Like I said. In our case, they being the U.S. government, has infinitesimally superior weaponry. The problem is they can't use it without coming out and becoming, the devil incarnate. They need an excuse to use it, so forth. So it ends up where this is where the concept of hanging in there. I got to see what this is now. There's somebody is typing here. Okay. Yeah, well, you can see that in there. Thanks for that message, Shane. So we need to, I'm looking at doing a ride because here I'm in the Illinois area. We're allowed to go out to a restaurant. You can't go to church. But you go out to a restaurant, you can go buy booze, you can go buy hammer and nails, but not to church, which is totally wrong. And I'm waiting for law. I mean, I can't afford it, otherwise I do it. But lawsuits should be being filed now with the freedom of the religion aspects of it. There's the Bill of Rights. There's no condition in there to have it suspended. It has suspended in the past, and remember. World War II, they up and took U.S. citizens who were of Japanese ancestry, took everything away from them and put them in camps. Totally wrong, right? It has been done in the past. So, but I'm looking to take a ride to go to a restaurant. What I'm suggesting people do, we can do this around the world, around the United States, well, around the world, but around the United States, with motorcycles or cars, is have bands, flags, banners, whatever, and take a ride, maybe a 10-mile, 15-mile ride to a particular restaurant, make arrangements beforehand, pick up to-go orders, and come back. And that way you can go out without breaking the quote rules while still protesting the thing. You can use your brain to do this. I want to remember. I want to talk about that HCQ, but I'm going to see if there's something else here. The lawsuits. Oh, what? Yeah, the Michigan governor is probably the worst example. Our governor is probably not far behind in Illinois. But now they're going federal lawsuits. Also, the legislature is looking at the checks and balances on it. So that's good. That's a great thing to do. Oh yeah, good. I ran across this. This is from CDC's own website. The number of deaths from seasonal flu, without throwing 22 million people out of work. What is it? 25 now. CDC estimates from 2010 to 2011 to 2013, 2014, deaths in the United States range from a low of 12,000 to a high of 56,000. Right? Nobody thrown out of work, no lockdown. Suspicious, wouldn't it be? Plus, they came up with a model. That's another thing they used about this, is the model they came up with to come up with 2 million people going to die in the United States is models are only as good as the information put in and the assumptions made in the formulas. So in other words, you can make a model say anything you want. And they needed high numbers to scare people into allowing their rights to be taken away. And now they're recalculating the models. And at first they were more honest about it. Well, we found some flaws in the models. We recalculated it down. But now they're saying like, well, because we took these extreme measures, we went down we could have had 2 million people. No, never would have been 2 million people. So the models were flawed, if not just incompetent. It's hard to do. So I'm not, on one hand, it's like it's hard to make models. But it could also have been the models were intentionally done. Yeah. There's the protests in Michigan. Good stuff. This is also good. Attorney General lays down the law. Government cannot shut down churches. Well, they still are. It's just that what happened is people went to court, God bless them, and they wanted to say you can't have churches in cars separated, and that went to court, and it was thrown down in a couple of states. So you're going to see them backing up on it. All right, I'm going to say this now, so I don't. This is interesting. Flu shots raise the risk of coronavirus by 36%. If you had a flu shot, you had a higher chance of getting coronavirus. So back to the HCQ. Now, on here, I have many, many links to the actual. Forgive me for sliding up and down all this stuff. I wish I could. There's another thing. Let me interject. Hospitals are actually getting paid to list patients as COVID-19. Now, they're not being paid. It's not like, hey, if you make up COVID cases, you get more money. Well, that's true, but they're just simply saying that we're going to reimburse you for all the extra care and trouble you have with your cases, your COVID, and we're going to do it on a per case basis. If you have a lot of cases, you would have more reimbursement. I mean, it sounds kind of nice at the surface, except it's wrought with people changing the numbers to get more money. And then all of a sudden, people who are in 4th stage cancer going to die anytime now. They get COVID in the process and die. Well, it's COVID death. Well, maybe the COVID did shorten their lifespan, and therefore they did die because of COVID. But the first part of it's ignored, the fact that they were in that position and greatly harmed from it. I got to try and let me just get back to I know I have the stuff here, but I just can't. I'm not going to find it. They said that here's what these models come in. They're going to need all these hospitals, right? All these hospitals and all these things. Here's the thousand bed ship Comfort in New York, and it had 20 patients in it, right? Because they're meeting it, which is good. Excuse me again. Now I'm having trouble because I have seasonal allergies, and heaven forbid if I go out there and start sneezing, people are going to have a heart attack. I want to say I got a text from a family member, extended family member of mine. I know these people since I was single digits, since I can remember, what to Christmas and Easter and so on. I know these people, they're very apolitical. They're not involved with politics at all. I'm not saying that's good or bad. It is, right? I get a text, what's the word? Unsolicited text. Hey, I hope everything's good with you and your family. We are both so tired of this BS. Not going to see either one of us. You're not going to see either one of us with gloves or masks on. This is a total scam. Geez. We have 3 RNs in our family. 2 are laid off here in Illinois, 1 in New York, New Jersey. Says the hospital he works at is nearly a ghost town. Just got this today. This is not like weeks ago, right? This is the problem. Is that when you touch base with people, there are people who are in. I mean, I also have other people that I've talked to. There are people in the hospital. There are people dying. But what has happened too is they've stopped all other actions based on these models to be prepared in good faith for this wave of people, which hasn't happened. Now, it's a good thing it hasn't happened. It's not because of mitigation. It's because it never would have happened. It's because we were sold a bill of goods to try and kill the economy, which has taken a huge, it's hit and it's gushing blood everywhere. It's still here. We're still in the position of being hit and gushing blood. Other people have shown videos, and I was told by an extended family members, another person, saying that, yep, the hospitals are empty at the moment because they literally stopped all elective surgery, which is most of their business anyway, day to day, to get ready for this. Okay, fair enough. A lot of these filming of the hospitals being empty could have been prior to the anticipated wave. And fair enough. They're preparing for the gush. Okay, well, the gush is kind of come and gone in some places, and it never hit those numbers. Just like the weathermen know, ooh, we missed it. We missed it, huh? Oh, we took it out. We missed the hit. No, we didn't miss the hit. We got a 25 million person thrown out of work hit. We have a doubling, tripling, quadrupling of the national debt hit. We have the how are we going to put these businesses back together again hit. It was a direct hit into vital organs. So we didn't miss the bullet. It was hit right on. It was shot right on. It hit home. Now this guy, this lawyer is doing lawsuits against the tyrannical governors, and that's good. That's good. Trump redirects WHO funding to Samaritan's Purse Red Cross. So the Red Cross has had some problems, but the point is that the WHO covered for China and put out China propaganda, and because of the covering from it, allowed a head start into pouring into the country. So, plus you have the leftists making fun at the beginning, saying, no, there's no problem with COVID. Luckily, we have film of all this stuff. No, there's no problem. Don't worry about it. Trump puts up a COVID investigative committee. It makes fun of because there are old white men in the committee. Meanwhile, you have all these various these bad actors all talking about how good it is to go out. There's no problem with COVID. Then they realize they can use it against the president, so then they just try to rewrite history and then blame him for rewriting history. I wrote this earlier. Truth is truth is principles for all times and periods and all cultures. When recorded in applications for a particular culture, particular time, while the details may differ, the principles are the same for all. Right now, is a great time to read Jesus' teachings on how to live out the principles during times of oppression. Of much value for what spirit we should walk in, what the envelope we should walk in, because right now, being oppressed by this, since they want you to fight back, to give them an excuse to lay the hammer down, we go back to Jesus' teaching to people under Rome's strong hand and the corruption of the church, the church, religious institution at the time. Jesus still didn't teach the revolution and fight and whatnot. He focused on those spiritual principles. Now, in our system, we have our own system working on. We do have the Bill of Rights and so forth. We have both legal and moral precedents to walk in. We're not under Rome, not yet anyway. And so we do have additional secular aspects that we can take, but we have to remember the principles that Jesus taught, so that always remember this in your life. We're all going to die someday. We're all going to move on to another spiritual realm, right? Now, for those who are atheists out there, I don't know what to say, but the point is not if you live, or it's how you live. And it's not if you live with how much you have, but the principles that you live by and how you help one another and how you do those things. That is the stuff that lasts. Those are the things that we're here for. If nothing else, if God could intervene and take it all away, right? But maybe God's got a different plan. Let me switch this here for a minute. I got to move this over without causing a lot of commotion on the screen. So these are the type of things that we have to look at. And my whole point of doing this is to bring out these principles. And you can read. The best thing to do, I think, I'm getting dings and so on. The best thing you can do is read the principles Jesus taught, the Beatitudes. You can read the Sermon on the Mount. I mean, that's it right there. And that's what we need to be doing, helping one another through this crisis. Not trying to hoard toilet paper so that I got more toilet paper I can mummify myself for the next 10, 20 years. But to help one another. There's a guy who listens to the show, Calvin. He's been putting away food. His goal is when stuff hits the fan, is just do a little soup kitchen. Not guide into hiding on his own. So he's got this, and live in some cave somewhere, but trying to help one another. Because that's the way it is. We're all going to die someday, and if we help one another along the way, it's going to do great for our own spiritual growth and for their spiritual growth, because we're not living for the here and now. We're living in the here and now, but not for the here and now. We're living for the hereafter in the here and now. How's that for? Let me look here, because I haven't been able to look at any chat systems. I got questions here. See, there's a guy in the chat room saying the only way you can catch the virus is through injection by vaccines. But I haven't had a vaccine in my life, and I've had flus. All right, so some of the stuff we're saying is problematic, okay? And it's possible people had the flu and they're blaming COVID. In fact, if you look back at my shows, I've had a couple of guys on of HIV saying HIV's got nothing to do with AIDS. They used it, and you'd have to go to the show. You can look it up probably in my archives. Somebody really wants it, they can write me and I'll find it and put a link to it. But he's like his whole goal, still doing it too. It's a long Arab name, or Egyptian name. I can't remember how it is. You have to look up AIDS in the search on my old website. But the point was they were using the HIV as a tag for someone to be labeled AIDS and gave them drugs which actually harmed them. So in that aspect, you could say if you got the snivels, you got the here's a vaccine to stop it. No, I don't want to take a vaccine. I want to have my normal system here. And if we don't, we have stuff like this HCQ. So HCQ comes out and has a tremendous record, 90-some% success rate given in these trials, which are being called anecdotal. It's already a drug that's been approved. They already know who not to give it to, who has certain heart conditions. It's already there, and they're piling on against it. Well, why? Because they want big numbers. They want vaccines. They want to come up with vaccine cards or, gasp, even implants to say that you are safe to move around because you had the vaccine. Meanwhile, people who have had the flu shots got the flu. So it's all part of this. It's all part of a huge scam to break the back of the nationalist system, of Trump in particular, plus kowtow the American public by making them walk in aisles in the store, wear masks, all this stuff. This is the real application of it. Force you to take a vaccine, which, of course, a lot of money hands. God knows what's in the vaccine. We have, Robert Kennedy, is it Robert Kennedy Jr. or John F. Kennedy? John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been really big on this stuff. Of course, he's been ignored by the mainstream because even though he came from the real Democrat system, he's transgressing on these areas. Plus, then having the idea of having some type of an ID card and a number assigned with you, especially if it's going to be implanted in you. Now, all they need to do is get a number associated with your name in a database, and all you have to do is make sure you have the number of it. Let's unplug it. So what ends up happening is that all these things put together are getting you to get that number. And if you can get that number, all it is a little chip with a number in it. No big deal, right? But that number then puts in a database, and they can attach anything they want to that number. So now with a wave of a wand, they have that database tied to that physical person. It should never be taken any reason. I don't care what the reason is. They're not going to tell you it. Well, we're going to do this so we could better keep track of you, like they're doing in China with the social scores. They're going to say, well, it's for health because if you're immune, well, now you can move about. We don't have to worry about it, and we can keep track of all this stuff. It's ridiculous. So, something happened inside the house. The video player is doing something. So I'll go in and look at it when I'm done here. I think I covered most of this stuff. But I start out using my Facebook posts as like references, and then I realize I have so many posts that it would be. Who I think has been doing good in this is Tucker. I don't go for any news, MSM news. I don't go, oh, Fox is good. No, none of them are good. There's individuals throughout there. I would say that One American News Network is pretty good. They can be criticized for trying to balance the negativity and the attacks of the left globalists against Trump. So then, by contrast, you could say they're more positive, but they're trying to balance the miscarrying of others. That would be their, quote, sin if there was one. But there's a couple of guys on there. I can't think of his name. I got a problem when I see the face. I can't think of the name. Graham Ledger, who's on One American News, and the lady after him. I can't think of her name now because I can see her face. But individuals I like. Tucker, Laura Ingraham has been doing good. Hannity is definitely a Republican guy, a Republican partyist. Just so happens that a lot of the stuff is helping and doing good because of where the members are helping, looking for truth and getting the bad guys. Here's a story. April 13th, U.S. deaths in March 2020 are actually down 15% from the average in the last 4 years. This is the kind of information that we need to deal with. I guess I'd have to refer you to, here's an example. Nursing home, no hydrochloroquine, 35 deaths out of 120. Here's another one with 135 people, 1 death using the hydrochloroquine. It's obvious what I've read from it is that the hydrochloroquine is an anti-inflammatory on its own. It opens up a channel for zinc to get into the system. And, of course, if you take extra zinc along with it into your blood, that helps. The zinc interferes with the reproductive cycle of the virus. The virus actually goes into the cell, takes over, reprograms the cell with its protein RNA strand, reprograms the DNA, and starts to become a virus-making machine, that cell. So with the zinc going in, it disrupts that process. When the cell dies, you also... What was that? Like something happened. I heard that noise. That tells me that something happened. Test 1, 2. Yeah. It looks like the Spreaker died. All right. Well, I think I did pretty good at this, getting this out. And I will update the Spreaker system if it's messed up, if it stopped working. So I think we're going to have to go here. I got a feeling that the internet is going to, if it hasn't already crashed, it will. So let me go to the end. And again, look at the Facebook page if you want to just scroll down or get the other links. I don't have a lot of time to transcribe them into other things. So that's why I wanted to do this particular thing across all these other venues at once. So I'm going to leave it at that point and say, God bless. Remember, follow the teachings. They are the ones that will help you in this and the principles of it.